Take 7. Alright, welcome back guys to another video. I've gotten this request a number of times and it was actually an idea that I was considering doing, which is a where are they now of Monstercat artists. This was suggested by a couple people, and especially after I did the Datsick video, it was definitely a good lead into this topic of a video. I decided that for the sake and purpose of time that I was going to kind of start off with a pilot episode. In this episode, I'm going to be covering every Monstercat artist that has not released since 2011. It allows me to start off with a small group of artists, and from there, if this video gets good reception, a good number of views, likes, comments, all that good stuff, then I'll consider doing another episode. Otherwise, this might be the only episode, and if that is the case, then alrighty. I'm going to start off with artists that I have the least amount of information on, and I'm also going to be including vocalists, just so that we have a couple more artists to fill up. So we're going to start off with Corinne Lee. She was on the track Crazy with Project 46, and as far as I can tell, there's absolutely no information that I can find on her. On her YouTube upload, there are no social links, and when I tried to search up her name, I was redirected to a YouTuber who I am just briefly going to assume is not her. Along the lines of missing artists, we also have Matthew Sartori, who was also on a Project 46 track, the one Dreaming, who also is left inconclusive due to the lack of social links. When searching up for Matthew Sartori, I found some sort of video game critic or music creator, I'm not exactly sure, which I also don't think happened to be the same person. The third of the inconclusive artists goes down to Metzen, who collaborated with Matt Duke on the track Shivers. As far as we're able to tell, Metzen supposedly is Matt Duke's friend, which would make him from Montreal, Canada. And yeah, that's where that leaves Metzen. And the last of the artists that I'm only going to briefly cover is Halo Nova. Now, Halo Nova is a bit of a different story. Most people actually know the story of Halo Nova because Halo Nova is actually the older alias of Varian. Halo Nova released tracks like Totally Radical, Triceratops, and The Force. And now while I could go into a lot more detail about Varian and where he is now, I feel like I would rather leave that for a future episode where I would go when Varian has last released, because that is the natural progression of his alias. When it comes to Halo Nova's socials, they listed a Facebook, SoundCloud, and a YouTube, but of those three, the only one that is still up is his YouTube, so you guys can definitely follow him there if you guys wanted to. We're going to move on to Alex Faraway, who collaborated once with Eminence on the track Belgium. Alex is also from Montreal, Canada, and as far as we can tell from his social links, he has continued to produce music, but only up until Christmas of either 2015 or 2016. I can't really tell because SoundCloud's date system is kind of odd. However, he does actually continue to produce under another alias by the name of Waveflow as half of a two-man project. They recently released a track at the end of 2018, so you guys can definitely check out their music. As for Alex's links, there was a Facebook, a YouTube, a SoundCloud, and a Twitter, but his Facebook link is broken. I managed to find the new one. I guess they went under a rename, rebrand, so that's why it broke, but I'll include the new one in the description. We're going to move on to Trifonic. I feel like Trifonic is a pretty interesting case because, oddly enough, Trifonic was featured on The Destroyer by Muzzy 2/3 remix. But interestingly enough, Trifonic has a bit of a complicated story. The only reason I say that is because the vocals in that track were actually not Trifonic. Trifonic a while back created a track by the name of Broken, and in the track he actually got the artist Amelia June to create vocals for it. In the Destroyer remix they ended up using those vocals as well, but oddly enough decided to feature Trifonic instead of featuring Amelia June. I'm going to assume that Trifonic contracted Amelia to create these vocals and as such left her uncredited, and because they decided to use the vocals that Trifonic contracted, they ended up crediting him instead of her. I feel like morally speaking it would have made more sense to feature Amelia June instead of Trifonic, but at the end of the day, this is what it came down to. When it comes down to Trifonic, Trifonic comes from Los Angeles, USA, and actually continues to release music. Supposedly, Trifonic is actually a two-man crew. And as for his social links, all the links from the 2011 release still work to this day, which is his SoundCloud website, his Facebook, and Twitter. So make sure to follow him in the description down below if you guys are interested. We're going to move on to Neilio, which is probably one of my favorite artists from back in 2011. He's the artist with the most tracks who ended up not releasing after 2011. He created the tracks Outside This World, The Funky Technician remix by Matt Duke, Obsession, and Captivating. Neilio's from Ireland and he continues to occasionally make hardstyle. He seems to only release around once a year at this point, the last one being about a year ago. He now releases mostly on Dirty Works, but actually has said that he'd be interested in returning to Monstercat from the tweet down below. And yeah, kind of been on and off the radar. His social links from his old video, just like Alex, his Facebook is broken, but that is because he had a rebranding of his link, and there is a new Facebook which you guys can check out if you guys are interested. I'm gonna be completely honest, I'd feel like at least out of all the 2011 artists, that Neilio is an artist that I'd love to see come back, but I feel like because of the way Monstercat is headed, I don't see Neilio maybe coming back, or maybe, you know what, Neilio collaborating with Julian Calor after his Happy Hardcore track is definitely something that I'd love to see. 15 Grams is definitely a producer that I didn't actually think would still be alive to this day, but that should not be surprising considering I don't follow him at all. I don't mean alive as in dead, I just kind of mean alive as in still active, but that is because back in 2011, he collaborated with the producer Project 46 on the track Dreaming, which is the same track that Matthew Sartori actually featured on. 15 Grams is an Australian producer, and he mainly makes house music, and he actually continues to still release music and play shows. If you guys have a chance, you guys should definitely check out his SoundCloud. He's got some dope house tracks, which I think are pretty bomb. When it comes to the social links from his old release, the only one that doesn't work is his website, but he has a YouTube and an Instagram that wasn't included, along with all his old socials still working, which I'll include in the description again if you guys are interested. Gemellini, I think is how you pronounce it, is another artist that we don't have that much information on. They collaborated with Project 46 on the actual first EP that was ever released on the channel on 2 tracks, which is Deadline and Crazy. There isn't that much information when it comes to Gemellini, but as far as I'm aware, there are some socials that are still alive and they still continue to make some music, but otherwise are pretty down low when it comes to having anything informational public. Gemellini is a duo, 2 dudes named David and Andrea, who are both from Sydney, Australia, and they both have their own Twitters, but one of them is taken down and the other one is still up, but they haven't tweeted since 2011, so it's basically for our own purpose completely useless. Their Facebook is also down, and funny enough, their website is still up. However, I think their website has been taken by some other company, like now it goes to some sort of beach hotel, I think, some sort of bar. So unless Gemellini is now a bar, that's pretty interesting. If you check out their SoundCloud, they're actually still releasing music. They just released a tune like I think 4 months ago, which is pretty alright, and you guys should, maybe take a listen. And yeah, they do seem to take pretty large breaks in between their songs, so I don't know when their next song is gonna be, but yeah, they're still around and they're still making music. Jason Horecky is a name that you guys might find familiar because he was one of the artists on the 2011 Christmas album. He actually collaborated with Mr. Fiji Ouija on the track Doesn't Feel Like Christmas. Though he's been somewhat under the radar when it comes to his music, I think he's one of those artists that is definitely a great chill vibe. He recently released an EP on CS God, which, if that name sounds familiar, is the label that Slips and Slurs, also known as Slippy nowadays, released the track Wanted a couple of years back. Jason Horecky, I believe, changed his alias to now be his last name, which is Horecky, which I'm sorry if I'm completely destroying that name. The EP that I mentioned a while ago is called the Process EP, and he released it about 10 months ago. Though as far as I'm aware, 10 months ago was the most recent thing that I can find from his socials. All his general social links like his SoundCloud, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter have not been used since then or since even earlier than that. Jason, if you happen to be watching this, I love your chill music. I've been playing your most recent EP on loop for a while, as it's been amazing to listen to as I've been working on this EP. It's been pretty chill. One thing that I forgot to include is that Jason is actually from Florida, USA. And now for the final 2 artists. The first artist we're going to look at is YH, also known as Jonathan Habte. He's from Colorado, and he released on Monstercat a while back Part 2, which was actually a VIP of another track that he released off the label. The reason I feel like there is a little bit of significance, at least with YH's past and Monstercat, is because a while back, I think a couple of years back, he had a series on his YouTube channel where he would type in a sort of style where he would kind of make it seem like it was some sort of diary vlog or diary entry, and there was one video that he made about Monstercat. He also made a joke video a while back about how to submit to Monstercat, which was a joke because he ended up ripping a Skrillex track and submitting that through their demos. Looking through YH's discography and what we can see, he seems to be releasing more music on the more chill side, but hasn't actually released any music as far as I can see within the past 2 years or so. His Twitter is dead, but his Facebook, YouTube, and SoundCloud are all still up, and you guys can check out his music there. He recently released the stems and the final masters to all of the music he has ever released. Yes, even including Part 2. You guys can download it, I believe, from his Facebook. It's like a lot of gigabytes though, so it's gonna take a while. And I don't know, maybe you guys can find some secrets into his production. And last, but especially not least, we have 23, also known as simply 23. 23 is now currently residing in New York, and has actually since discontinued the alias of 23. He now releases under the alias of Escher Beat, I believe is how that's pronounced. Though a lot of his socials still seem to be kind of migrating over to that, though still having the whole 23 theme to it. His old SoundCloud redirects to his new SoundCloud, his website doesn't exist anymore, and though his socials like his Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube still all have 23 somewhere within the URL, the actual branding of the pages all relate to his now new alias. The reason I said that 23 has some sort of importance within the Monstercat history, I guess, is that 23 actually used to be one of the engineers that used to master most of Monstercat's music, similar to how Stonebank does it nowadays. I found this source on a Reddit thread that has since been archived and I lost it while researching. I'm going to try to find it and try to include a screenshot, but apparently it was up until 2012 that they had then left 23's mastering to forgo a company that now does it. Though then again, it might be now that the company no longer masters the music because, as said before, Stonebank does seem to be a pretty integral process to the mastering of most of the music that gets released eventually. 23 is actually one of the most active people out of all of these people to still be on social media. Looking at 23's Twitter right now, as of recording this at 1:45 Eastern Standard Time in the morning, he has just tweeted out a meme 3 hours ago. So he's still alive and he's still well. He actually also has his messages open. I'd like to see if maybe I can get an interview with him, ask him a couple questions or whatever. Seems like a pretty chill dude. And yeah, I checked out some of his music. He hasn't released much music at all under his new alias, though it does still seem to be rather similar to the old style that we remember it to be, though a lot more higher quality. The last track he released was around 2 years ago under the name of Paragon, and if you guys like it, it's a free release, so you guys can download it over at his SoundCloud. And yeah, I mean, I guess at this point, this is where we can leave it at. I wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to do this video. I personally feel a bit awkward looking through people's socials because I somewhat feel like I'm stalking or kind of, going and snooping around for information that, I don't know. If they fall off the face of the earth, I'd feel like they'd probably want to stay down low rather than having their history uprooted. So I kind of just kept to the very minimal and just seeing, if they're still around, if they're still active, if they're still doing stuff, what are they doing? Like I said with 23, I'd like to see if I can get an interview with him and, I don't know, maybe see if I can hit up a couple more artists and see what happens. I know we didn't really go too in-depth with anything or any of the artists, but like I said, if you guys are interested with me continuing this series, you guys can let me know and I'll see what I can do. Anyways, this video looks like it's going to be quite a long one, so I'm going to cut the recording here. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!